up? My name is Prashil and welcome back to ATE. And today I'm going to be giving my review of the iPhone 12 Pro. Now this is the best phone you can get at a compact size. Now what do I mean by this? Now with the iPhone 12 Pro Max being the absolute best that Apple has to offer in terms of camera hardware, screen, as well as the battery life. Now the fact of the matter is that it's a pretty big boy. And not just in terms of the overall dimensions, it's pretty chunky too, especially when you have it in your hands. Now with a screen size of about 6.7 inches, that phone really starts to lean into the realm of phablets. And we'll talk a little bit more about why that's relevant later, but for now, let's get into the review. Now to start us off, I think it's important to note that the iPhone 12 Pro shares many of the same characteristics as the regular old iPhone 12. The dimensions, for example, are exactly the same. A case for the iPhone 12 Pro will fit the iPhone 12 just fine. The front cameras on both the phones are pretty much the exact same. Now where the iPhone 12 Pro differentiates itself from the regular old iPhone 12 is the rear camera setup, as well as the internal hardware. You get an added telephoto lens as well as a built-in LiDAR sensor, which does improve photography to an extent but is mostly used for AR. Now going into the build itself, the materials used are also different. You get a more premium feeling stainless steel bezel around the sides with a really well executed matte finish on the back, which I honestly prefer over the standard iPhone 12's gloss finish, as that thing is a bit of a fingerprint magnet. I do wish the bezels of the iPhone 12 Pro also had a matte finish, as you can probably see here, they do attract a lot of fingerprints. Now in terms of the overall design, I do find this phone to be a very well made and really good looking phone. I think it's probably one of the best looking phones that have come out. And in my opinion, this new boxier design definitely feels a lot better in the hand. It feels a lot grippier, and I can't really explain it, but it makes the phone feel more substantial in the hand. And it makes it feel like you're holding something of significance. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that it definitely feels very premium in your hand. And it should. I mean, you're definitely paying a premium price for this device. So on that front, I think Apple has done a great job. So moving on to the specs of this phone, you have a 6.1-inch Super Retina XDR display. You have the latest A14 Bionic chip. You've got integrated 5G for super fast downloads, uploads, and high quality streaming. Now when it comes to the camera system, you have a triple camera setup, a 12 megapixel ultra wide, a standard wide, and an added telephoto lens over the standard iPhone 12. Now this camera system is capable of 4x optical zoom, night mode, deep fusion, smart HDR3, and 4K Dolby Vision HDR recording. On the front, you've got a 12 megapixel true depth front camera with night mode, and to round it off, this phone has IP68 water resistance. So it's pretty much all the bells and whistles that you'd expect at this high price point. Now how does this all translate to performance? Well, it's safe to say that the iPhone 12 Pro is a beast when it comes to performing day-to-day tasks. Web browsing, social media, using the camera, or playing games, these tasks are absolutely not a problem for the iPhone 12 Pro. And it also helps that this phone has an added 2GB of RAM over the standard iPhone 12. I will say this, however, when using 5G for prolonged periods of time, such as using it for navigation, the phone really starts to heat up and the battery takes a huge hit. Now this is probably the biggest letdown for the iPhone 12 Pro. And there really is no nice way to put this, but the battery life of the iPhone 12 Pro is average at best. The measly 2,850 milliamp hour battery means that this phone can easily be killed in a day with heavy usage. And the fact that there is no fast charging brick included in the box is honestly just insult to injury. So on this front, Apple, I don't know what they were thinking by reducing the battery capacity of this phone when compared to last year's models. Now, Apple claims you can use your old phone's charging bricks, but what's the point? You still won't be able to utilize your new phone's maximum charging capabilities unless you dish out even more money to purchase a 20-watt fast charging brick. So yeah, on the battery front, I am disappointed with Apple. Why they decided to decrease the capacity of the iPhone 12 Pro compared to the iPhone 11 Pro is just an absolute mystery. And it's something that Apple's really going to have to look into on the next generation of iPhones. Now when it comes to the screen, you get a 6.1-inch OLED display, which is very vibrant and has great viewing angles. And as an added bonus, unlike the regular 12, The screen on the iPhone 12 Pro can get even brighter, which eliminates the issue of outdoor visibility that I mentioned was a bit of a problem with the iPhone 12. Now, the only detriment to the iPhone 12 Pro is the 60Hz refresh rate, which honestly feels primitive when compared to the other phones you've got at this price point. I mean, hell, even budget-friendly options like the OnePlus Nord comes with a 90Hz refresh rate screen out the box. I mean, come on, Apple. You could have at least improved on this. And so at this price point, it really is unacceptable.
So moving on to the camera, you have a triple lens setup that's pretty common on most current high-end phones. You have your main 12 megapixel shooter, an ultra-wide, and an added telephoto lens, along with a LiDAR sensor which aids in depth sensing. For those of you who don't actually know about LiDAR, it stands for light detection and ranging, essentially shooting out lasers into the environment and having those lasers return with information on the environment, allowing you to create a 3D map of objects. It's very cool stuff. In practice, standard photos and good lighting from the iPhone 12 Pro look fantastic, and Smart HDR3 does an excellent job with white balance and preserving important image details for photos that look crisper and slightly more realistic than those that come out of the iPhone 11 Pro. So there is an improvement. In lower lighting conditions, there are more noticeable improvements in the photos coming from the iPhone 12 Pro. Again, thanks to the A14 chip and LiDAR scanner, night mode photos capture more detail, are sharper, and are just a little bit more vibrant.
Now, video on the iPhone 12 Pro is absolutely excellent, without a doubt. The stabilization you get along with HDR Dolby Vision provides stunning visuals that look solid. The stabilization that you get with this phone along with HDR Dolby Vision provides stunning visuals which are really solid. And if you're in the market for a phone that can actually shoot really good 4K footage, which is stable at 30 or even 60 frames per second, then this phone should definitely be on your radar. In terms of innovation, I will pretty much repeat what I said about the entire lineup. The refresh design is the highlighting feature of the iPhone 12 series. And we honestly probably won't see a drastic change in the design until maybe next year. The use of LiDAR sensors in these phones are a little more prominent now, especially with the measuring app. It definitely does yield results which are a little more accurate than the iPhones without LiDAR. But it's obvious that the main reason it's on here is because of AR. Overall, I feel that this is the best iPhone you can get at a compact size. And the reason I say this is because at a screen size of 6.1 inches, this phone sits at a really good and comfortable size for the majority of users. In fact, the iPhone 12 mini is just outright useless. And I think Apple even realizes that now with the decline in sales. Because with an even smaller battery than the already average at best battery in the iPhone 12 Pro, it just makes the mini, honestly, at that price point, it's just not a viable and a decent option. Now, the 12 is a really good phone, and it's a great value for your money. The 12 Pro improves on that and is better. But given the fact that you don't have all the bells and the whistles of the 12 Pro Max, it kind of makes this phone a weird choice. And this is probably my biggest issue with this phone, is how Apple chose to position this phone within their kind of market of phones that they're selling. Because you've got the mini for, well, nobody really. You've got the iPhone 12, which is a great bargain for people who just don't really care about all the bells and the whistles. Then you have the 12 Max Pro, which is for the enthusiasts and, for the ones that want the biggest battery life, the biggest screen, the best that, just the absolute best that Apple has to offer, which is fine. And then you have this phone, which is sort of like a hybrid between the 12 and the 12 Pro Max, which is fine, but I honestly felt that Apple could have done better in terms of sales if they chose to, add all the bells and whistles, all the features, all that hardware, all that good stuff from the 12 Pro Max into the 12 Pro. Because for someone like me, the 6.7 inch screen size of the iPhone 12 Pro Max is great, but the phone's size itself, it just doesn't make it a practical option for me. With 6.7 inches of screen real estate, the iPhone 12 Pro Max is really pushing into the phablet game. And while the specs are great, not everybody wants a phablet. And here's why. Take the Mi Note 9 Pro, for example. This phone boasts a 6.78 inch screen, and while this screen is lovely to look at, and this is a great phone to use, and I have no problem using a device that's this large, The only real problem here is it simply isn't the easiest phone to carry. Now, I normally wear, old jeans or just some track pants, and the problem with that is that this phone is really hard to get into the pockets of those because the pockets of, just jeans and track pants in general aren't that big. And even if you somehow, by some chance, manage to just shove it in there, as soon as you go to sit down, it'll just slide right out. And I've had this with this phone quite a few times. I'll jump in the car, it'll slide out and go right in between the seats and the center console. And that just wastes like 10-15 minutes of my day fishing this phone out. And while there are some girls I know who love their iPhone 12 Pro Maxes, they also are the girls that normally take a handbag everywhere. And I'm not exactly sure I'm the right person to bring man purses back to the masses and into the mainstream. Although I don't think they were ever mainstream, but yeah. Now, this iPhone 12 Pro is a pretty damn good phone. But don't get me wrong, it's not a perfect phone. The battery and screen could definitely be improved. But the biggest thing that lets this phone down is the fact that despite being the Pro, it lacks some of the features of the Pro Max. And honestly, for someone who would absolutely adore a phone like this, if it had all the bells and whistles of the 12 Pro Max and it just gave it to me in a compact size, I would absolutely just recommend this phone to everyone because that would be the phone to get. You don't need the 12 Pro Max unless you really want that bigger screen and bigger battery. But some of the stuff like the hardware stabilization, which is improved on the 12 Pro Max, as well as that battery life and the screen, I could really, really appreciate the extra improved hardware stabilization from the 12 Pro Max into this phone. I think it would definitely complete this camera system on this phone, as well as the better lenses that are used on the 12 Pro Max. And because of that reason, it kind of puts this phone in an awkward position. Now, if you want the best that Apple has to offer at a compact size and you're willing to live with the trade-offs that you'll have to make for not getting all the features of the 12 Pro Max, then this is the phone for you. My name is Prashil and this has been my review. Thank you so much for watching, guys and girls. I'll catch you on the next one. Until then, peace out.